Welcome. Today, we are diving into a really critical question for pretty much any organization out there. How do you actually build a solid AI governance program? We're going to break down the 10 essential components, and we're pulling from a super comprehensive guide by Virtualization Options LLC. Think of this as your executive briefing, a high-level flyby of a much deeper 10-part series, all designed to give you that complete strategic picture.
Okay, before we jump in, just a quick but important note. This is a review of how to develop an AI governance program for leadership by Virtualization Options LLC to provide a starting point for a training conversation. As every organization is unique, we work with organizations to develop custom organization-specific training to address its specific needs, risk exposure, and productivity goals.
And that phrase right there on the screen, a starting point for a training conversation. That is exactly what this is all about. We're here to frame the big picture what and why of AI governance so you can kickstart those really crucial, tailored discussions inside your own company.
So let's just start with the one question every single leader should be asking themselves right now. Is your AI innovation moving faster than your ability to oversee it? You know, that tension? That's precisely what a strong governance program is built to solve. It's all about balancing that rapid, exciting progress with responsible, smart management.
Okay, so let's get right into the business case. Before we start talking about the how, let's get crystal clear on why this is so incredibly urgent. And trust me, when you see the numbers, they tell a very, very powerful story. Let's kick things off with risk reduction. Check this out. Organizations that have mature AI governance programs in place, they report a 40% drop in AI-related incidents and compliance violations. I mean, that is a huge reduction in potential headaches, not to mention financial hits. And now, let's talk about the money. The math here is just so compelling. Preventing just one major AI incident can save you more than the entire annual cost of your governance program, often by as much as 60%. So, see, this isn't a cost center. It's more like an insurance policy that has an incredible return on investment.
And hey, if you're thinking governance is just going to slow everything down, you need to think again. It's actually the complete opposite. Once that program matures, with standardized processes and clear guardrails in place, organizations can actually deploy their AI initiatives 35% faster, and with a whole lot more confidence. It just gets rid of all that guesswork and hesitation. And finally, there's the trust factor, which, let's be honest, is priceless. Stakeholder trust, we're talking from your customers, your partners, and even your own employees, is measurably higher by about 50% in organizations that can point to their responsible AI practices. Now, it's really important to get this. This is a journey, not a flip of a switch. You don't just wake up one day with mature governance. You know, organizations usually evolve. They start in that chaotic ad hoc stage, move through developing and defined where the rules get set, and then finally land in managed and optimizing, where governance becomes a real, true strategic advantage. All right, let's get into the blueprint for the program itself. This section is all about getting the right people on board and having the right policies to guide them. This is the absolute foundation you're going to build everything else on top of. Let me be clear. Effective AI governance is a team sport. It is not just an IT problem to solve in a back room. You absolutely need a cross-functional team with your executive leadership setting the vision, a dedicated governance board for oversight, and of course your operational and technical folks to make it all happen on the ground. And here's a perfect real-world example of a policy in action. Having an acceptable use policy for tools like ChatGPT is just non-negotiable these days. It creates those clear guardrails, right? It shows employees what's okay, like using it for research or drafting, and what is totally off-limits, like feeding it confidential data or, and this is a big one, letting the AI make final calls without a human in the loop. So you've got the people, you've got the policies. The next step is to build the guardrails. These are the practical, day-to-day controls and processes for actually identifying and managing risk as it happens. The real key here is having a structured process you can use again and again. This 5-step framework makes sure every single AI project gets looked at in the same way. You identify the context, you assess the risks, you classify how risky the system is, you define the controls you need, and, this part is so critical, you review it all on a regular basis. Okay, so you've got the rules and the processes down, but how do you make it all stick? Well, this next part, this is the engine of your program, training and monitoring. This is what's going to drive that long-term adoption and ultimately success. You know, a huge takeaway here is that training can't be one size fits all. It just doesn't work. Your executives, they need to understand the strategic risks. Your tech staff, they need to do deep dives on things like bias detection. And all your other employees, they just need to understand the acceptable use policies. Tailoring that training to the audience is absolutely essential for building real AI literacy across the whole company.
This here shows that great monitoring isn't just a single activity. It's a whole framework with different layers. You've got to combine that continuous automated tracking for performance and bias with periodic human-led reviews, internal audits for compliance, and of course, clear reporting that goes all the way up to management. So, how does all of this come together in the real world? Our final section here lays out the journey, turning all these individual pieces into a concrete, actionable plan that you can actually implement.
Now, let's be real. This is not a weekend project. A truly comprehensive program is built out progressively, usually over 18 to 24 months. You start by getting some foundational wins in the first few months, then you roll out your core capabilities, and from there, you just keep expanding, integrating, and optimizing over time. You know, when you boil it all down, it really comes down to this contrast. Successful programs, they're built on a foundation of executive commitment, cross-functional teams, and a focus on what's practical. On the flip side, these initiatives fail because of perfectionism, not having enough resources, or trying to implement governance in some isolated silo.
So, we've laid out the roadmap. The key components are there, the business case is clear, and the journey is mapped out. The only question left is for you and your leadership team. Are you ready to lead it?
And as we wrap up, let's circle right back to where we started. This has been a review of how to develop an AI governance program for leadership by Virtualization Options LLC to provide a starting point for a training conversation. Because every organization is so unique, the real next step is always to develop custom, specific training that really addresses your team's needs, your specific risk exposure, and your productivity goals.
So if you're ready to take that next step and start building a custom approach for your organization, all the contact information is right there on your screen. Thank you so much for joining us.